Good afternoon. Time is of the essence. We have a bit of a situation. These messages will self-destruct unless, of course, you just scan the QR code and get the PDF later. Listen, I have one thing for you today. You need to pay attention a little bit. When you look at this sentence, you might think that's okay when it comes to a beauty contest. That's a bit of a nonsense. But to be popular is amazing for this industry, and it's really important. And if you look at everything that Thailand, with its one city concept of Bangkok and all these factors over all these years, we keep saying positive things about what's happened in Thailand and tourism. So let's start this lesson number one out of a few inserts. Does hotel supply, new supply, impact Thailand and Bangkok? Of course it does. The difference compared to other markets, it impacts less. We see less impact here. It absorbs, it has a tendency to absorb it much more than many others. In the last 2-3 years, we've seen a peak in delivery of rooms across Bangkok. The biggest growth has been in river and Silom areas in Bangkok. That's something we haven't seen before. It grew really quickly. And it's true. We still have the biggest market is Center and Sukhumvit. Does it add to pressure? Less so. We'll be back in a second to talk more about performance and what that looks like. Number two, let's talk about how this compares up in Thailand. I'll tell you what. When you look at Thailand, how it compares to other countries, because we keep saying that Thailand is doing well. How well? I'm comparing it to Australia, UK, and Japan. RevPAR in USD is well established. It's actually come along really well when you can look at these countries, and it keeps growing. And another trend is, of course, when you see that rate is slowing down. The growth in rate is slowing down. Is that a problem? No, it's happened already across Australia, UK, and most other countries. Japan is an anomaly. Japan is an anomaly in that it keeps growing rate into 25, both in USD and Japanese yen, and I think you know why. But most other countries are like Thailand and Bangkok in that it's stopped and it's slowing growing down. When you look across main Thai markets, there are two things that stands out. One is that it's a recovery story still for some. That includes your Chiang Mai, to some degree Hua Hin, getting people back. Chiang Mai with double-digit growth, did not see that in 23, so it's finally seeing people coming back in. There's a lot of great new product there. But when it comes to Bangkok and Phuket, it's the second year running of strong growth. Second year running of strong growth. We haven't seen that before. What this does to Thai markets is that we're seeing an alignment in occupancies over 70%, again, which we haven't had in a long time. But not just that. We have high occupancy, but we're having the highest rates you've seen in a long time, ever, actually. So we have the highest rates you've ever seen. But we need to talk more about higher rates. And that's next when I talk about luxury. Back in a minute. Okay, time for lesson three. Let's talk luxury. That's where I left you off last time. Something is happening in the river. There's a driver down there. We need to dig deeper in that. This is where I stay, down by the river. That's not where my bodyguard stays. I put him in Bangkok surrounding. That's okay with you, as long as you keep an eye on that briefcase. Listen, what's the most amazing thing in ADR growth is the 43%. In 5 years, to see luxury in Bangkok growing by 43%. It's a lot. People are happy to pay it, though. 5% growth over last year. We didn't see that everywhere. How does that stack up against other markets? It's faster than London and Singapore. These markets didn't grow slowly. They grew quickly as well. Sure, it's behind Tokyo, but it's faster in those markets. And it's true when you look at the difference there, fine, you still have growth to achieve. London is 3x and Singapore is 2x. You can clearly see how much more expensive it is in luxury, but it's doing well and it's growing quickly. If we drill or dive even deeper into this, 20% of luxury hotels in Bangkok, are selling at $300. That's 10,000 baht. It's a bit of a milestone. We have had that before, but not this many hotels. So Bangkok Luxury is selling over $300 on an annual basis. Half of these hotels are by the river. So all these new hotels and the existing ones are driving high rates, and that's okay. People are really happy to pay it. And if you look at what it happens across all, now not just luxury, across all markets, you see strongest growth in Bangkok and river because of that luxury growth. So we keep seeing that. What's the effect of that? It means that river and Silom is gaining pace and is close to becoming the highest performing submarket in Thailand. Never seen in Bangkok. We've never seen that before. So the river area has great potential, even with all those new rooms that we've seen before. So So let's get back in a minute or two and talk about profitability. Let's go. Where did I leave you? Oh, I know where I left you. We were going to talk about opportunities because rates are good, occupancies are good, so things are looking pretty good, but there's still opportunities. One of the things when I looked into the data, I saw something has changed with seasonality in Thailand that we'd actually never seen it. I've shown a lot of you this before, basically taking 20 years, and I've taken out the years where strange things happen. So we keep it a little bit normal. What does it mean when it's green, it's higher occupancy, red is lower occupancy? Very clear in 20 years where the low season in Thailand is, right? Those 5 months have lower occupancy. It's been like that for many, many years. And you have this gap in July, August, where traditionally we get people back, okay? Then when you look at the rates, big red blob in the middle. It doesn't impact anything in July and August. The rates are just lower during all those 8 months of the year. But can we get people back in September, October? Can we get more? Well, THA, TAT, everyone in this room, airlines and hotels, do you have the right hotels and experiences in Thailand for someone to go to Phuket during the monsoon? I don't know. Why shouldn't they come? Why shouldn't they come? They go to other places during when it rains a lot, in Bali, even in low season in January. And if you look here at the bottom, 23, 24, clearly higher. I've shown you already, higher rates across Bangkok and Thailand as a whole. But if you look in isolation behind these TTF numbers, what you will see up on the screen, you're seeing a little bit of a difference. It's not totally green everywhere, but it's not as much as it was up there, not as much. So when you look at 2024, occupancy and rates next to each other, and I've removed those high peaks across the new year because it ruins my graph and we can't have that. When you combine these two, put them again into each other, for the first time ever in Thailand, when occupancies are spiking up, rates follow. Never happened, only happened in 24 now for the first time. So an opportunity was seen and it was captured by hotels and rates were going, continue. So what's the next opportunity? Well, clearly, it's got to be that balance around. It must be easier to impact low and shoulder season compared to peak season. After this, we got to talk about profitability. Absolutely. Let's go profitability next. Let's talk about profitability. We had a lot of words about top line and RevPAR and ADRs, etc. But we know that throughout 24 and arguably in 23, yeah, it was tight margins to look at. Now, if you have a month like this, life's pretty good generally. I'm simplifying things because we only have limited time. 3% on labor per available room cost growth in November. That's really good. That's kind of like beating Tamworth away, right, David? So that's really good. But unfortunately, not every month is like that. Not every month is like that. If you look throughout 24, that orange line is consistently growing, consistently putting pressure on your bottom line and your flow through, and you will have these months where it dips down. The revenue will not grow at the same pace. But 25, more of the same. We're going to see at least 2 quarters is our forecast of continued pressure on that. Even if hotels are much better at now and it's changing with staffing and everything, but that's the place. Now, you can look at a market like Bangkok. In that great month of November, then with that balance, what happens? It takes the opportunity, grabs it, and grows the margin as well as GOPAR. Is it everyone doing that, all markets? No. You can look at Singapore, takes that, sure, the margin grows, but not GOPAR. There are markets around you that are not performing to the same extent, that doesn't have the same fundamentals to grow. That cost pressure on labor continues to be tough across many markets. Next up, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the future. 23 was good, 24 was even better. What do we see up ahead? I'm positive, but it is a little bit muted. You got to be diligent around it. If you look at occupancy on the books, what all hotels have right now in the first quarter in Bangkok, it is almost 5% higher than last year. Same time last year, 5% higher, what we have on the books. That's a great sign of new occupancy. For the entire year, 1.5% higher. That's impressive. Where's the biggest action? Where do people want to stay the most? Of course, it's River and Siloam. Even if you put new hotels and luxury, that's much higher than last year. People are coming back for sure. Higher occupancy in these markets, but the biggest growth is come back in Hua Hin, and it is right here in Bangkok. So it is growing. You got more occupancy coming. And also, less pressure of new supply. Past peak, remember? Less hotels opening in the next few years. We should be okay with that and absorb that. That leads us to think that in terms of forecast, Fine, bear in mind 1 to 2%, that looks low. That's what we had a few years ago, remember, before COVID, 1 to 2% growth. It's still positive growth. So, next section, we're going to summarize this and look at what the real opportunity is for Bangkok. But 1 to 2% is not bad for a market like this. Back in a minute. Let's go. To summarize this, I'll say some obvious things about the Thai economy that are hopefully aware of, because the GDP forecast for this country is pretty good. That's stable, it looks pretty good. The couple of things that you look at that we are concerned about is the retail spend, right? The consumer spend. It isn't really only in Thailand, it's in many different places where we're not seeing the same spend that we'd like to in a lot of cases. We also have, of course, the household debt. Household debt is over 90% of this country's GDP. It used to be over 70% 15 years ago. Measures need to be taken to adjust that, I'm sure. But growth-wise, automotive, etc., is pretty good. And if I summarize what I talked about today, I showed you that occupancy on the books is stronger this year than last year. That's good. You're getting some new demand. New source markets are feeding as well. If you invest in other asset classes like office, it's not easy. The vacancy rates of 25 to 30% in Bangkok is going to take time to be absorbed. Longer probably than many other Southeast Asian markets. The fast rate growth days are over, and that's got to be okay. Luxury will support it in the river area for sure, but 2025 is so much more. It is about managing that cost against the revenue. That's the biggest takeaway for me. But also that you can lean on something that very few markets can. You can lean on the fact that you are extremely popular in Thailand and Bangkok. New people just keep coming. I heard it as well today. It's going to happen. Can we just check on something here? Oh, you bastard traitor. I got to go. All right, never mind. I can't be here.